by regulating the organizational activities, which means you might be doing some monitoring, and after monitoring you will perhaps comparing with the standards, because the standards and goals are set, and in the planning function you will be comparing with those whether you are achieving those goals or not, and if these goals are not met, then you have to take the corrective action. This is controlling. Controlling has three parts. You can say that it's monitoring and comparing with the standards and then taking the corrective action. Again, look at this example of production manager, power stations and substations. We have regular weekly meetings. These are used for controlling, seeing the progress, etc. Monitoring technical standards, for example, availability of units and taking corrective action. Remember that in the planning phase, the availability was set like 95% of generating units, and the substation availability of 99%. So you look at these monitoring technical standards. Are we on it? Are we getting those availabilities or not? So if not, then you have to take the corrective action. Costs, maintenance plans, projects, etc. These all have to be monitored and controlled. And communication within the organization, these are the different ways to, and reports, these are different ways to control the progress and keep achieving the goals. Now I would say that as a student, we all plan, organize, lead and control. You might set your goal like having a GPA of 3, for example, and you might then, to achieve this your goal, you might have to organize, you might have to organize your time, you organize your activities to achieve these goals. You may say that, okay, I will study 4 hours or 5 hours each day, and also on weekends I have to do a good work. So this is one way of organizing, and then you will see that you would like leading. Of course, you can do self-motivation, or you can work in groups and you can motivate each other. That's the way to lead or communicate with each other so that you keep working towards your goals. And finally, the controlling function. If you get low marks in your quiz or so, you know that you want your grades to be high, then of course you keep studying and you take the corrective actions accordingly. So we all do these things in our lives. We do plan, we do lead, we do control, and we do organize things.
For example, another example, as a father of a house, I have a goal. I wanted to have my children to achieve their best. We wanted to have a good living conditions. Then I made sure some of the tasks are divided between myself and my wife, and possibly even the grown-up kids. So there is an informal organization that helps to achieve those objectives. Then in terms of leading, whatever happens, whether it's positive or negative, we are all trying to cheer each other's up, and we are trying to see how we can basically overcome the challenges.
Yeah.
And eventually we want to see how we are doing as a family at the end of the day. Whether the kids have achieved their objectives, whether we have a very good house to live in, do we have a good car to use, and so on. So basically these four
functions,
items are actually going to be applicable even in our regular lifetime. Whether we are aware of it or not, it's a different story, but it's going to be applied.
That's right. Thank you very much for your input. Now, if you have any questions, please ask me. Otherwise, we will continue. So let's then look at another way of looking at what managers do, and we will see the Mintzberg 10 managerial roles approach. Mintzberg was a management guru who surveyed some top companies CEOs, and he looked at them very closely, what roles they perform, and he came up with 10 roles. And these are some of the 10 roles. He didn't even stop over here. He saw that how many times, for example, they receive phone calls, how many times they drink coffee, etc. He watched them very closely, and even how much time they spend on meetings. He did this in a very elaborate way. So he came up with these roles. He said that there are, broadly we can say, there are 3 roles: interpersonal, informational, and decisional. And under interpersonal, he said that there are roles like figurehead, leader, and liaison. And under informational, he said that these roles exist: monitor, disseminator, spokesperson. And under decisional roles, he came up with 4 roles: entrepreneur, disturbance handler, resource allocator, and negotiator. Now, what are these different roles? Let's look at the figurehead role. Figurehead means performing symbolic duties of a legal or social nature, which means that as a top man, he might have to do some symbolic duties, like, for example, Raisul Jamia, when there is a conference, he might have to open the conference. So he may be invited, and he will perform this role, and he will say that now I open this conference, or a new building or a new department. He may open that, or he may be there to give plaques or some awards to best faculty award, best teacher award, etc. So he is performing symbolic duties of a legal or social nature. Similarly, any CEO, any organizations, they perform these symbolic duties.
Or, for example, the Queen of England.
Yeah.
The Queen of England usually approves the request of the Prime Minister and performs symbolic duties as requested.
Exactly. So she is the symbolic head of United Kingdom and Commonwealth countries. Leader motivates and coaches subordinates. So as a leader, you might be motivating and coaching subordinates. This is an obvious function. We already discussed this leading function here. It is under interpersonal. We have this role also as a leader. You motivate and coaches subordinates. As a liaison officer, you maintain networks of contacts who provide help and information, especially at top positions. They keep many contacts. They have very informal contacts. They do not rely on emails or even formal letters. They just pick up the phone and call the person and tell that, well, we need this and that. They have contacts with ministers, with top people, with insurance writers, with suppliers, with distributors, etc. They have maintaining contacts with legal people. All types of contacts are on their tips, and they just they do the things very fast, and they maintain this network of contacts.
So the reason it is, we were talking about liaison.
Yeah.
So the reason we call it interpersonal, because obviously they need to be interacting with other people.
True.
And as such, they need to have interpersonal skills to achieve that.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the input. Then we have informational role, and we have monitor. Monitor is seeking internal and external information that can affect organization. It's very important at the top level to see what information will affect the organization, internal information and also the external. For example, how the economy is moving, how the new competitors are coming, what's going on. They keep track of the things. They keep also knowing what's happening inside. Are people happy? All this, labor is happy, their unions are happy, etc. This seeks internal and external information that can affect the organization. Disseminator is transmitting important information internally. As a disseminator, the top CEOs may have to motivate people and transmit the important information internally so that the people are well informed within the organization. However, they have to see which information is good for the organization and which may hurt badly, so they transmit the important information internally. Spokesperson is another role. It's transmitting information about the organization to outsiders. And for example, Raisul Jamia, he goes to different universities in USA. For example, he met some other president of another university, and he is discussing about our university, Sultan Qaboos University. He may say that we have maybe 6 colleges and we have so many departments, and we have 16 or 18,000 students, and we are the best university in Oman, etc. So he is actually discussing about his organization. As a small organizations, maybe the CEO of that small organization may be looking for some funds. So he might be working as a spokesperson and meeting to the banks and lending agencies to give him proper loans, sufficient loans, so that the organization may continue functioning properly.
And the reason it is called informational, because all of these people are dealing with the information.
Exactly.
Whether the information is incoming or the information is outgoing, that's why this is considered the role of the managers.
Exactly. Thank you very much again. And then we have decisional roles. And decisional roles are entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is who's acting as initiator, designer, and encourager of change and innovation. With these at the top level, of course, you have to encourage the change and innovation. As I said earlier also, if you don't innovate or change, you will be left behind, you will be driven out of competition. And nowadays, it's a very dynamic environment. Everything changes very quickly. New competitors may come, new suppliers may come, new technology may come, etc. So entrepreneurs, as an entrepreneur, you have to keep working on this as encourage the change and innovation in your organization. Disturbance handlers is taking corrective action under unexpected difficulties, and this may occur because there may be a labor union strike within the organization, or there may be, taking the example of Raisul Jamia, maybe there is students are unhappy, they may come out on the roads and start shouting and making they boycott the classes, etc. He has to take some corrective actions under the unexpected difficulties. Or if there is a fire or some other thing, then of course he has to be there. So he has to handle the disturbance. Regarding resource allocator, it distributes resources of 4 types, including time, funding, equipment, and human resources. Again, I take the example of Raisul Jamia. He has let's say 6 colleges. He knows he has to decide which college to fund more, which to give more equipment, where to concentrate more, and where to hire people more, etc. So he's distributing the resources of all types. And as a negotiator is another role, which represents the organization in major negotiations affecting the manager's areas of responsibility. As a negotiator, organization, the top people, they might have to buy a new company or do some mergers, or making negotiating contracts with the energy company, or or any suppliers or distributors. They negotiate, and these are the 4 decisional roles.
And the reason they are called decisional, because they are going to make decisions that are going to have impact on the organization one way or another. Entrepreneur may bring up some new ideas. Disturbance handlers are making decisions to resolve any issues. Resource allocators are going to be the source of distributions of all the resources available, and negotiation is going to make a deal eventually with outsider. But eventually all of these are going to be decisional because you're making decision.
Exactly.
Now I have a question. I noticed that you mentioned that someone could be potentially figurehead and a spokesperson at the same time.
Yeah.
Or perhaps someone who could be entrepreneur and a spokesperson or a disseminator at the same time. So these are not clearly defined in the sense of borders. It's not that we have one person who does monitoring and another person who is entrepreneur. These are supposed to be roles, and in that sense, one person could potentially have multiple roles in the company. Is that
Exactly.
the right way of looking at it?
And this is the right way of looking at it. It's as I said, that Mintzberg observed the CEOs and he found out these different roles. So he said that these CEOs are involved in these roles, especially the top CEOs.
And perhaps because this overlap is a little bit confusing, is why the four components and factors of planning, organizing, leading, and control became the dominant way of defining the organization. Is that the right way of saying it? Because it is a bit too murky, and they are not well defined in terms of where the borders are.
Yeah, we can see that which approach is taking the prize. The functional approach is given more emphasis nowadays, although the roles approach has given us a very good insight that what the top CEOs are involved in. But the functional approach is more universal, and it's at each managerial level they plan, organize, lead and control, and we can directly relate to that. Whereas at roles approach, maybe the middle managers or lower managers may not be performing symbolic duties of legal or social natures, or maybe not, for example, having negotiation, or they may not be involved in some of the roles. So
In the function part,
Yeah.
a manager at any level
Yeah.
are going to have those four components,
Yeah.
but with different proportions and percentages.
Exactly.
So all of them, if they are manager, even middle manager, low level manager, high level manager,
Yeah.
they are involved with planning, leading, organizing, leading, and control. Depending on their position, their percentage of these are going to be different.
Exactly.
So that's how it would be easier to follow the functions part rather than the role part.
Exactly. Thank you very much for clarification. So shall we continue? We continue to another approach is to look at from the skills point of view, that what managers do, and we can say that they have these skills, they should have these skills to function properly, to carry out the various function of management. Four types of skills are important and needed. These skills are conceptual skills, interpersonal or human skills, and technical skills, and finally the political skills. Conceptual skill is analyzing, ability to analyze and diagnose complex situation, to see how things fit together and to facilitate to make good decisions. This ability to analyze and diagnose is very much needed at the top level, where you want to see and you would like to have the situation, what's going on in the country, what's going on in what competitors are, how different things will affect the organization, like for example a new technology or economic situation, etc. So at this position, functioning at top levels, conceptual skills are highly needed. Although they are needed at lower levels as well, but at the top levels this is the most needed skill, that you can analyze and diagnose the complex situation. Interpersonal and human skills are needed for all managers, and it is the ability to work well with others. As managers, you might have to motivate, you have to get the things done through people. So this skill is very important as functioning properly.
So this is in a recent survey from Industrial Partners. whether they are in the Middle East or in the Western countries, they actually stressed on the interpersonal and human skills of the employee as one of the significant components, because this is supposed to have been developed at the lifetime of the employee. And if they are missing any technical side, the company is very much willing to train and basically fill the gap in terms of the knowledge. But interpersonal skill is unfortunately something that develops through the years, and if someone hasn't developed it by the time they are employed, it's not easy to develop by the company itself.
Exactly, and it is very important, this interpersonal and human skills. The statistics shows that many people who are fired or laid out, not only because they do not have this technical skills, they have good technical skills, but they are lacking in interpersonal and human skills. They cannot gel well with their members of the organizations and with the team. So that's where they have to be say goodbye to the company. So this is very important skill one has to learn and practice.
So in another example, if someone is the best of the coder or programmer but doesn't have interpersonal skill, may not be a great asset for the company, but the company may go for someone who is not a professional or perfect coding person or programmer, but has a great interpersonal skills, and the company says, okay, I'm going to take him on board or take her on board, and I'm going to give him or her the chance to improve in terms of coding and programming through hands-on work. So this allows everyone to see the viewpoints of the managers. So this actually reflects the viewpoints of managers as they expect the management system to work.
Exactly. So we can say, in a nutshell, we can say that technical skills can be learned easily, but interpersonal and human skills are hard to learn because they come from very beginning. They are part of the personality, and once the personality has become, kind of developed, then some of them are difficult to change, and that's why the companies look for people who may have less technical skills but good interpersonal and human skills. They try to employ them. Thank you very much. Let's look at another is the technical skills. Of course, everybody has technical skills. They may be skilled in accounting, finance, engineering, manufacturing, computer science, marketing, etc. They have these skills, and to perform well as managers, you should have these skills in one of the areas. Finally, we have the political skills. This is actually building a power base and establishing the right connection so they can get needed resources for their groups. This political skill is, if you go into the old management books, you don't find this political skills, but I think until recently people have thought about that this is also a very important skill, and this is actually doesn't come under interpersonal skills or human skills. It is more of having the right connections so that you get the needed resources for your group, so that you keep doing some good projects, and eventually if managers are promoted if they do good projects and they do successful projects, their promotions and their perks are attached to that, and that's why they need some political skills to have a power base to establish the right connection so that they can get resources and they can embark on projects they need for their organization.
And the logic behind this important skill is because an organization cannot be on the shaky grounds. It has to be sustainable, it has to be stable. So one of the reasons people would look into hiring people who are aligned with the vision of the company, aligned with the vision of the higher manager, is because they want the system to be moving forward rather than backward. They want the system to be stable, and they want the system to be sustainable. And under this, a subset of these political skills, at the time of implementation, of course, people would view this as what is called in the region as WASTA, or sometimes it is called as networking in the Western countries. And the logic behind it is that every company is trying to survive a very tough competition environment and make sure that the system and environment inside is going to be stable.
Thanks. Yeah. So it's kind of a vasta. You have the right connections there, and this vasta may not be seen as a negative thing. It's considered as legal. You have the right connections. You have the right people there to whom you can get your resources for your groups. Now we have